well, I'm going to tell it to you straight. This sounds like multiple sclerosis. And I was like, excuse me, what? Because I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting them to tell me.
But not that.
Not that. Yeah. I was like, I don't know, detached retina, which is
Beat up! Yeah! Get up! Kicked in the teeth, no weather! Not gonna lie down and die! Gotta stand up, reboot and move on! One step at a time! Stand up! Reboot! Stand up! Reboot!
Hello and welcome to the Human Reboot Project, which is all about connecting folks just like me and you who've had life throw a big-ass monkey wrench at them. We talk about that monkey wrench and then how our guests choose to pick themselves up and keep moving forward. And today my guest is Heidi Gurov. She's a former rally car racer, competitive cyclist, turned adventurer, and along the way, she has documented her adventures in her blogs, Heidi Rides Bikes, and now The Adventuring Heidi. You can find links to both of these shows in the notes. Last year, life hit her with a big old monkey wrench, and we're going to get into that today, later on in the show. But first of all, please welcome Heidi. Heidi, it's great to see you.
yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For the audience at home, this is actually our second attempt at this podcast. So the first one, we had some we'll just say technical difficulties, but I appreciate you coming back for round two, and this is going to be bigger and better than the last one. And one of the reasons we're back is because I knew that you had a rally car racing background, but as we started talking about it during the last time we tried to record this show, I was like, holy cow, we need to really go back and really dig into this whole rally car thing. So I'm just going to start there. Was this like just a case of like, I've seen Talladega Nights one too many times and I want to race cars? How does one get into racing cars?
So yeah, when I was 18, I saw Fast and the Furious. It was right after it came out. And unlike the warning at the beginning of the movie, that's like, don't do any of this. I was like, this is really cool. Let's do this. That there was, I think, a whole generation of people born out of Fast and the Furious, or came into cars. So, yeah, it was mostly like the import racing scene. I had a 1993 Nissan Sentra as my daily driver, but I bought it was a 2002. It has the longest name in the world, Nissan Sentra SCR Spec V, and it was like the souped up version of a Nissan Sentra, which is just their Nissan's like crappy little economy car. Yeah, and just really started like car shows and kind of like the drag racing scene. So really that straight line, squeezing as much horsepower out of a car I can get. And that was kind of my life, like through college, like everyone else is partying and drinking. And I was like, no, I'm going to spend my money. I need wheels and tires. And it was definitely, interesting. I'm from Laramie, which has Wyotech, which is a car school. So it kind of was great. I could have lots of friends that were cars. And then did that for many years. It got me, and I started photographing car racing as kind of in tandem with that. And then when I moved back from Wyoming, I lived in New Jersey a couple years after college. I started photographing a lot more with like rallycross and rally, and got to know people there. And then that kind of led to racing a little bit of rallycross, or at least being in that scene a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of the journey of the cars.
Yeah. So I'm a Georgia boy, and in the South, NASCAR reigns supreme. And which, for folks who don't know what NASCAR is, it's an oval track, and the cars are very heavily regulated in terms of all sorts of things, everything from aerodynamics to engines. And then I think a lot of people know, you mentioned the Fast and Furious movies, which everybody thinks of like as streetcar racing, which I guess in most places is illegal. So how does rally car racing fit into that? And I think there's different types of rally car racing as well, right?
Yeah. So the big, there's stage rally, which is usually on gravel roads, usually public roads, but they close them during the race. It's really high speeds. you have like a co-driver that's reading you instructions on like the road coming up. Pretty dangerous. I always feel like rallycross is kind of like I don't know, the little sibling of rally. So I always think it's a lot like cyclocross, except you're not getting out of your car and running with it like you do with a bicycle. But really tight courses set up with cones, usually runs for like 30 seconds to a minute long, and you can't hit the cones, or you have, I think, seconds added on, and speeds are really slow, like maybe 30 miles an hour tops. And you're doing these really tight, like, courses, lots of turning. So like I said, it's like they take stage rally and shrink it very, very tiny. They're like dirt parking lots. So I say it's a lot like cyclocross, which is bicycles, or there's autocross, which is done on like paved parking lot roads. To me, that's not as fun. We won't get into autocross, but yeah. So it's kind of the difference. And yeah, it was very different when I came from a big like drag racing. All you have to do is like kind of step on the gas and shift well and go in a straight line on prepped tracks and other areas. It's a lot different because yeah, you actually had to turn, and it becomes more skill versus how like pure horsepower of the car. So it was quite a bit different, but I was already racing mountain bikes and cyclocross at that time. And there was actually a lot of crossover between the two. So it was kind of, yeah, an interesting combo. Yeah. I'd race cyclocross and next day race rallycross.
So I know you modify the cars. Are you limited to what you can do when you modify the cars?
For rallycross, it'll put you into different categories. I'm trying to think, because there was like modified, which is like, that's where the craziest, modifications. There was prepared, which is the class I typically raced in, which you can have a little bit of modifications. I think you can run rally tires. I can't remember. And then I think there was like a stock class where, yeah, it's just the car. Like people would go get rental cars and bring them out to rallycross and race them. So it's kind of a thing where people just bring everything. Like people would have their, Subaru Foresters that look like your typical car driving around Boulder, and then like straight up cars that are fully prepped for doing this. So yeah, it's kind of a big range of stuff. So people can get into it without having to drop a ton of money on a car. Like you could just get a beater and leave it stock and race it. So, yeah, which is kind of nice. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you know this too, right? Bike racing, you can just go down this huge rabbit hole of always doing things to your bike and always wanting the latest and greatest. And, it's ridiculous. You're paying, people paying $120 per tire for a bicycle. So I imagine rally car, I mean, it can get pretty expensive.
Oh yeah, it can. I was lucky in the fact I just co-drove my boyfriend at that time's car. So, I was beating up on his car because I wasn't about to take my Subaru on it and beat it up because I'm like, it's my daily driver. But yeah, and then like the drag racing or that whole like side of it that definitely got pricey. And part of it's because I kept chasing, like, I need this much. And I ended up like in that time, like one of the highest horsepower, one of those SCR Spec V cars, which was fun. But then I look back and I'm like, well, that was completely useless to have 500 horsepower in a Nissan Sentra. But, I was in my 20s and you just do funny things. So
what, I mean, at some point are the cars basically becoming no longer street legal because they're so modified, or?
Possibly. Mine always were. At least, especially being in Wyoming, we don't have emissions laws or anything. So that kind of, you didn't have to pass inspections or any of that. But yeah, mine always stayed like street drivable. I think like, especially in New Jersey, I lived really close to Englishtown Raceway when it still existed. So I would just drive over there on my drag radials because it was close enough. But which my drag radials were street legal tires still. But yeah, but definitely, I mean, people can make things as crazy as they want, but I always kept mine drivable. So
yeah. And you mentioned that, like, I guess straight up rally car racing where you're on like dirt roads, closed public dirt roads, usually speeds are really high, a lot of like really fast cornering, probably sometimes in not ideal conditions. Do those cars have to be modified for safety, like roll bars, stuff like that?
Yeah, they usually have full roll cages. There's safety equipment requirements on the driver and the co-driver usually, helmets and fire suits. And there's these devices called Hans devices that kind of hooks. You can't really, it's to stop like neck injuries and stuff, try to eliminate head movement. So yeah, a lot more like all the clothing has to be Nomex or fire retardant, and roll cages, and because the danger level definitely goes up. I think every single person I've known who races rally has been in some sort of crash, so of varying severity.
Sounds just like bike racing.
Yeah.
So bike racing has none of the safety equipment. You just have Lycra and a little helmet. And
then you look at road racing, which it's okay. You're going 50 miles an hour with Lycra and a tiny helmet.
So speaking of bike racing, you mentioned you were doing mountain bike racing and cyclocross sort of in conjunction with some of the rally car racing. What prompted the switch? Because I don't think you're still not racing cars, and you're actually not racing bikes anymore either. We'll get to that later. But when did you make that transition?
Yeah, I know with the car stuff, like as I got in my late 20s and after I graduated nursing school and stuff, I feel in a way you kind of grow up, and it was like, okay, I don't really need, it's the Fast and the Furious years are over. So that's why I drive a turbo Subaru Forester as my daily driver. So I have the speed and spiritedness, but I don't have a modified car otherwise. But it was so I just kind of naturally I got older, and it was like priorities changed, and probably brain maturity of realizing like risk factors. So cycling I kind of fell into here in southeastern Wyoming. We have a lot of really well-known mountain bike trail systems like Kurt Gowdy State Park, and then the Happy Jack Recreation Area. And I had friends that mountain biked, and I was kind of looking at a way to become physically active. So I was like, okay, I'll buy a mountain bike, which I bought like the most crappy hardtail, and it was a women's medium, which I'm 5'10". I have no business being on a women's medium bike. Even the women's large are small on me, and I hadn't touched a bike in 15 years, and they put me on it at the bike shop. I'm like, yes, it feels terrifying. Okay. And so, I started mountain biking. A month after that, I entered my first race locally, just because once I had friends doing it, and I have to do everything in a competitive manner, it seems. So entered as a beginner, and then it snowballed from there. I swore I'd never wear spandex or own one of those skinny tired bikes, and I was buying a road bike. And then, snowballed from there. And then the racing just, it became this kind of like hyper fixation thing for many years. And then like the rallycross overlapped a little bit in there. But it was just kind of faded out of cars as I got older, especially like that whole like street racing import scene. And then, cycling took over.
You're like, hey, I need a new expensive hobby, so I'm going to give up car racing and take up racing bikes, which I imagine that probably, I guess it depends on how deep you go in either one of them, but I imagine that cycling maybe is a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've never thought of it, but one thing I've noticed, like especially in like rallycross, there was a lot of people that were competitive cyclists that ended up in rallycross or rally. Like people have raced in like the 80s and 90s, and suddenly now all they do is race rally, which is very interesting. Or there's people, they still like mountain bike, or they're cyclists. So there's actually a lot of crossover between the two, I discovered.
Yeah, I think it was one of the cool things about cycling is it's such a great crossover sport in terms of, you just need that thrill of speed, or you're just looking for something that's going to provide you some fitness and some cardio without like yes, you can really go hard and tax your body, but it's not like running where it, completely pounds your knees into the ground. I know there's a lot of NASCAR drivers who use cycling as a fitness tool, just to, keep their cardio up, because NASCAR is like a lot of car racing. It's not just turning the wheel. It's a pretty physically demanding sport. So, well, cool. So, you had a pretty illustrious career for someone who came late to cycling, and I don't have this in my notes. I redid my notes, but let me see if I can remember. I know that you have the Colorado State Single Speed Championship. Is that right? For cyclocross? Or
So I never won a state championship. I feel like, was there one year I won the Shimano like cyclocross cup? Probably. And then
you
I've
won
been
the
in the
series,
Colorado.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I've in the like back when like BRAC, the Bicycle Racing Association of Colorado, was a thing. I've placed like there were several years I always called myself the bridesmaid. I'd be like second place in the overall for a single speed for a season. But yeah, definitely had a good run with single speed cyclocross.
Yeah.
So
and then fourth at Mountain Bike Nationals one year, is that right?
Yep. Yeah. In 2021. Yep.
And where was that held? Was that here in Colorado?
Yeah, that was in Winter Park. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then you also have a hill climb national championship, which you also won in Colorado on Pikes Peak. Am I remember that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you are, just winning things left and right, or bridesmaiding things left and right. And along the way, you have this, when it's still up, I don't think you really post to it as much, but you have this great website blog called Heidi Rides Bikes. And you used to blog about your cycling. You keep a very, and I think you still do, you still maintain the race calendar for Colorado and Wyoming. So if anybody wants to check that out, you can check out the show notes. And it's a great resource for looking at where those mountain bike and gravel races are going to be. But at some point you were like, I'm kind of done with cycling. What was that all about?
Yeah. It was funny because like in 2020, it was like I was in the best shape of my life. And of course we know like what else could you do that year? And there was
what happened in 2020? I
don't know. Like this little virus thing, novel coronavirus pandemic. Which everyone's like, don't you live for this with a microbiology degree? And I'm like, not really. I prefer Ebola. But it was, so it was like all I did was ride a bike that year. And there were races that happened. Like every single race I entered, except for one, I won. The one I didn't win, I got third place. And I was like in the best shape of my life. And I was like, this is amazing. So I tried to carry that into 2021. And it was kind of like the cycle started where it's like, well, all I can do is either race or be training to race. Where in 2020, it's like I rode a lot, but there was also like, oh, I can take a week and go to Yellowstone, or it wasn't that I can't do anything but preserve my fitness. And I had always had a very complicated relationship with competitive cycling. First off, I say like geography never helped because everyone in Colorado is a born professional cyclist. Girls are training 40 hours, not 40 hours, like 20 hours a week for Cat 4 road. It's insanity in Colorado trying to race there. It's just a whole nother level. And when I was in Wyoming, it was fine. It was kind of that big fish, little pond. Or I remember I once raced in Iowa and, it's like the winning margin was like huge. I was like, this is great when you don't have to race in Colorado. I'm not, it always was that, oh, you're so like average or mediocre when I went to Colorado. And I based a lot of my self-worth on my last race result. Like it was just, I tied so much to like how I placed in races with like how good of a cyclist I was, which is hard because you can't control who you line up against. You can only control yourself. But it was so much like, well, if I didn't win, like I suck. I'll go back and read stuff from 2016 and all I went on and on. It was a horrible season and I was terrible. But yet I won my national championship. I won the local mountain bike series overall here, which was kind of like World Cup lights. Like Georgia Gould came out to them. They were like serious, but yeah, I would like miss how good I was because I was hyper focused on the times I wasn't doing well. So like 2021 happened and I tried that whole like gravel racing thing, the 100-mile races. Mm-hmm. It's not my distance, but in the gravel scene, people are like, you have to do the long miles or it doesn't matter. And it's like I did 300-mile races every 2 weeks. So it's like I did one, 2 weeks later, did one. And so I hit Mountain Bike Nationals that July in Winter Park. And I was so burnt out. I was like crying as I pulled up to Winter Park because I had so much stress on myself because it was my second Cat 1 Nationals, but it was just, I was so burnt out by that point. I got fourth, which I think even if I had the best race of my life, I still would have been fourth. It was just really good competition. It was on the long podium, so I was still on the podium. But, and I just really feel, I feel like I can't do, and I had started like really getting into hiking and dabbling more of like, I kind of want to get into mountaineering, but it's like, I can't because I have to train to maintain the level I'd been at. And so I remember the Laramie Range Epic was end of July, and it's kind of a car reference, but in Gone in 60 Seconds, if you've seen it, there's a car he wants to steal, and it's like a Ford Mustang, and it's called Eleanor. And that I always said was my Eleanor mountain bike race. It's the one I was never able to win, and it's a local race. And I was third overall, won my age group. So that was kind of like I felt like my final thing I had to accomplish in competitive cycling. I was like, I finally won the Laramie Range Epic. And so like cyclocross season came in, and I think I was just like, I'm done. Like, I was like, I don't want to race bicycles anymore. Like, I like riding bikes, but I was like, I'm done like racing a full season of mountain and cyclocross with road mixed in. And so, yeah, I finished out cyclocross season, and I think my final race was December 2021. And I remember crossing the finish line. I was so happy. I'm like, I'm done. And because I was worried I'd be like, no, I'm not going to, we're going to do another. And I was like, holy crap. And I did my volunteer shift and drove straight to a mountaineering store and like looked at ice axes and boots. And yeah, and it's really stuck. Of course, now there's other factors complicating things, but I've done, I think I've done a gravel race down in Trinidad, and a handful of like fat bike races. And I've been to Cross of the North like a couple times, but otherwise, yeah, I haven't. I just don't race. And it was good because I definitely could like branch out and do more. And I didn't have that pressure of, I have to do this because I have to train or there's this race. And yeah, probably overhaul mentally in a better spot because I'm not thinking everyone's talking crap because I got third place in a race. So
yeah, I think it's always good when you can first recognize that something is not, that it's supposed to be healthy and fun is no longer healthy and fun. And then you have the insight or know yourself well enough to say, you know what, I need to step away from this. And then, maybe, as I know you still cycle and stuff, and you can return to it and love it for a different reason. Maybe even more than when you were racing, right?
Yeah, not worry about, it's like, oh, I have to go do like 5 hill repeats instead of just riding when I want. And so I know that was I was never a person that enjoyed training. Like people like, I love the process, but no, I loved being on the podium at the end of everything. And I think that was my thing. I didn't get that joy out of training. And I really struggled because when I did have a coach, I get a message going, why'd you only ride 30 miles? You were supposed to do this or that. And it's like, well, because I wanted to spend the day riding with my partner at that time who didn't want to do my intervals with me, and that was always hard. And it's like, or my mom would be like, I want to come and hang out. It's like, well, I can't because I got to go do this many hours on the bike. And that was, I didn't. And I miss the moments of, there's this Zen moment that would happen. I always felt like when I was having a really good race and you're just in this like mental headspace, like Zen that I can't describe, except I just know how it feels to be in there. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I miss that moment, but I probably would never be able to do it again unless I raced beginners. So yeah.
That's great. I think you were out of the opposite because my Zen moments come when I'm training and I'm always like, oh my God, I'm in like this perfect flow state. Like, how do I get this during the race? It's like, it's just bizarre for me. I don't know if it's a choke or what, but yeah. So I mentioned the blog, both of your blogs. What did you do? Were you a writer or were you a blogger before you were a cyclist? What prompted the whole blog thing?
I mean, not really, but kind of, not, but yeah, I don't think I really had it. Well, actually, no, I had a makeup blog, surprisingly enough, and I had a few like little car things. And I actually wrote for a cat magazine for the breed of cat I own, but so a little bit, but nothing formally. And then, yeah, I started the Heidi Rides Bikes kind of just, I was so excited when I first got into mountain biking. It was a good way to like document every race. Like I go back, I'm like, wow, I literally did like a race report every single time I raced, and which is kind of fun to look back. Sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I wrote that publicly, or, but it's still really cool to see. some of it. So yeah, I think it was a way to document, and then I kept doing it. And then I started, I think in 2015, making the race calendars because I liked to organize that for myself. So I was like, I might as well make it public. And it kind of really blew up. That's where I think a lot of people are like, you're Heidi Rides Bikes. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am a calendar girl. Which, yeah, I still do it. I'm debating how long I will continue it, but I also love, because there's always talk of different race calendars, but they'll only do like USA cycling races and stuff, which I'm like, they don't sanction anything for mountain bike or gravel. So I keep doing it because people always reach out and say, oh, it really helped plan, or promoters love it too, especially those small promoters that they don't have a lot of reach. So it pretty much just exists for the 2 race calendars now, but the whole blog is still up if people really want to hear Heidi from a decade ago talk about a cat race.
It's funny that you mentioned 2015 because I moved to Colorado in 2014, and I think like a lot of people, whether it's cycling or running or anything that you're passionate about, you get to a new place and you've got to like start doing the online search to find your tribe. And I remember your website was one of the first, your blog was one of the first that I came across because I was looking for races to do, and that was sort of that's how I knew your blog long before I knew you. For the listening audience at home, Heidi was I always call you my first pandemic social media friend, because you reached out to me, I think after you saw an Instagram post when I started posting about my head and neck cancer stuff. And that's how we became friends. So I'd say keep it up, because there's people out there like me who, you come to Colorado and you need some resources or whatnot. So I think it's an incredible resource. And I say to people like, oh, I'm interviewing my friend Heidi, and they're like, who's that? I'm like, Heidi Rides Bikes. And they're like, oh yeah. So, and I think it's cool that you've made the transition from not only from, as you were talking about, stopped racing and went to the mountaineering shop and started, looking at ice axes and crampons and all the gear that one needs for mountaineering. So as you sort of made this switch from disciplines or sports, you also switched your blog over, created a new blog, The Adventuring Heidi. And I would encourage people to check out both of those, but the Adventuring Heidi one is great because it's just got some incredible photos. If you're ever if anybody's ever thinking about getting out, like, oh, I should take up hiking, read Heidi's blog, because the photos enough will inspire you, because you'll be like, I've got to go see that in person, because you've got some incredible photos up there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
of course. Well, so what? Let's talk a little bit about that adventuring, Heidi. You've already talked about how sort of why you made the transition. Again, is this blog? Is it more just for personal record keeping, or is there a sort of a larger motivation there to inspire others?
Yeah, it's mostly personal, like just documenting stuff. I actually started when I was going to Iceland. I realized I didn't want to dump all that stuff onto Heidi Rides Bikes. So I was like, I'm just going to start a whole new blog. So really it was for like my original Iceland trip that I did back in 2018. And then I just kept doing it because I was doing enough hiking or other stuff. So most of the stuff, it's written for me, but I try to make the posts, like if it's a hike, I try to say like, here's trailhead information, things to know, fees, if it's in like Rocky Mountain Park, here's the considerations. I try to put like helpful information in there. I do have a couple posts that are really meant for like people doing trip research. Like I have one on Yellowstone campground reviews, like all the campsites I've stayed in Yellowstone. I have a big how-to or just everything guide on backpacking permits in Rocky Mountain National Park. So there's some things that are really catered for like consumption for trip planning or whatever. And then, most of it's just me, my crazy ramblings on different trips I take. And if I go to Yellowstone, it's like I photograph every hot springs, every single trip. So it's like become this like running, like weird volcanic hot spring geekiness, which I'm just like, well, you either read it or not. I don't care. I like it. So but.
There's some people who take that hot spring stuff very, very serious. I remember my wife and I, she was actually my girlfriend at the time, Ashley, we were doing a road trip from Spokane, Washington down to the Bay Area, and we stopped in Lassen National Park. Have you ever been there?
I haven't, but I want to. Yeah.
It's an active volcanic region. There's like signs that say, warning you about stepping off the trail because you can break through the crust and your leg will get, cooked off and stuff like that. And we met this, and we were there in June. There was hardly anybody in the park because there was still a lot of snow. I think it was like us, another couple in this campground, and then what we called the creepy hot springs guy. And he looked like something out of like a 70s Love American style show. If anybody remembers that show, he had like the mustache and stuff. And he called himself a hot spring connoisseur, and he was just creepy.
Yeah, people like in Yellowstone, there's people, they camp out with radios and they call themselves like geyser gazers, and they just report on eruption times. And I mean, I was like, I want to retire and just camp out at Steamboat Geyser. It'd be amazing, because I've been stopped by and going like, Beehive's geyser indicator is going off. Do you have a radio so I can get a hold of you when it erupts? It's like, well, no. But yeah, I mean, people and they'll visit like year after year to document the changes. And yeah, I love it. I'm like, that's the kind of nerdy thing I would do if Yellowstone wasn't 7 hours away from me. But
right.
Yeah.
And so when you say radio, you mean like shortwave radios?
Yeah, like
and
little
they're reporting on it. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and they'll like call all their friends. It's like, get over here, it's ready to erupt. And I'm like, yeah, it's like a whole thing. There's websites. It's a whole subculture.
So how do you, I know, I don't, to be honest, I've never seen a geyser erupt. Never been to Yellowstone. So how do they know when they're about to erupt? It's like the ground starts shaking. It's like things start happening.
Well, some are predictable. So like Old Faithful, they can do math. It's the Junior Ranger book makes you do it, like how long it erupts, and then you do some formula. Some will have like other geysers that'll go off like before they do. That's with like Beehive, but they're like the indicator geyser is going. So, and then some are just random, and I don't think they have a lot. It's just all of a sudden it erupts. So it kind of depends, but some are pretty predictable or have a pretty good like set, like okay, within 3.5 hours ish. But
okay.
Geysers are amazing. You need to go to Yellowstone. So.
I know. I've seen. I should say. I mean, I guess when we were in Lassen National Park, there's we hiked this place, a couple different places, and I don't know if they're really geysers as much as it was just sort of like cool, hot, bubbly mud. And of course, I have to go down there and try to stick my finger in it, and it spits at me, and another time, another story. But that's a cool park. It's a really cool park. It's in California, and you would think that it would be super busy, but it's not, because it's way up in the sort of northeastern corner of the state. So put that on your list, and then put it in your blog.
Yeah, it has been, because I want to climb Lawson Peak, because it's a Cascade volcano and stuff. So yeah, it's like, I don't know, so many plans, so little time and money, but one day, hopefully.
Sure. Yeah. So you're plugging along, doing the Heidi adventuring thing. And then last year, you got a kind of a scary diagnosis. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So last year, officially, it was November 4th, 2024, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, or MS. So it kind of took like 2 years to get there. But yeah, definitely not anything I predicted to be getting diagnosed with at 41 years old. But yeah, so I don't know. Do you want me to share the whole?
Story? I mean, you're. I think it's just amazing. I don't know how long in between your diagnosis and when you actually shared it, but I do remember you sharing it on social media. And I personally was just like, oh my God, just knowing how active you are and how much you love being outdoors, and the multiple sclerosis over time starts to affect your muscular functions, that my heart just sort of went out to you immediately. And so I'm just curious, how did you feel in the moment? I mean, I know you're a nurse, so did you, I think maybe you probably at some point probably realized what was going on.
Yeah, originally, like my first symptoms was in July 2022. I had gotten like really, really sick on a mountain, Mount Adams. It's Washington's second highest, one of the volcanoes. And so like I kind of recovered from that, and I noticed I was either mountain biking or hiking, and my vision in my left eye got blurry. And I was like, oh, and I'm the type, I wear my contacts like a month, and I know you're supposed to throw them away after 2 weeks. I was like, okay, I'll put new contacts in. And I realized like every time I was either hiking or mountain biking, anything that seemed to get my heart rate high, my vision was getting blurry. So finally I was like, maybe I should go to the doctor, because I don't know a lot about eyes. So I'm like, is this a retina thing? I don't know. And so called my optometrist. They like freaked out and was like, you need to come in like now. I'm like, okay. And my optometrist, she was like point blank, like they did all this vision fields and retina, to make sure. And she's like, well, I'm going to tell it to you straight. This sounds like multiple sclerosis. And I was like, excuse me, what? Because I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting them to tell me.
But not that.
Not that. Yeah. I was like, I don't know, detached retina, which is not even those same signs and symptoms. And I remember I called my dad, and I was like just screaming, like, I got to quit my job. I'm cashing out the retirement accounts because I'm going to be in a freaking wheelchair. My dad was like, are you sitting at work? Like, you should shut up a bit, like, or go home. Like, because I was anything or everything. I was like, I'm blaming this or that and ranting. Because, I'm a child of the 80s. So it's like MS was always like, it's very disabling. I remember watching like a movie when I was a kid on like Annette Funicello, who was a Mickey Mouse Club person who had MS, and it's just this horrible thing. And I was like, I am not the type to be in a wheelchair. And I had a friend who was a wheelchair user. So I was like, that's just not my life. Like, I was like freaked out. And so the optometrist sent me, I had a really terrible primary care doc, because I'm a healthy person, so I never really needed a good doctor. And he laughed, kind of like snort laughed, and went, well, that's far-fetched. I don't know what you guys are thinking of. I was like, oh, okay. My blood work was fine. And so I got referred to neurology, because optometry really can't do a whole lot. Unfortunately, I wish they had a bigger scope. Because my eye doctor, she's like, this is like textbook. And I'm like, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. So it took me months to get into neurology. I think like 2 or 3 months. And is what the optometrist pointed out. It's like, it's not necessarily your heart rate getting higher, it's your body temperature increasing. And she goes, pay attention. And by then it was like August. I was like, oh yeah, like when I'm outdoors, my vision gets blurry, like if it's a 90-degree day. So I got into the neurology about end of November. So it's already like wintry and snowy. Everything checked out normal. She goes, I don't think you need to waste money on an MRI. This sounds like long COVID. And I was like, okay. Because I was so happy to hear it wasn't MS. And she goes, unless you want to waste the money on an MRI. And I was like, no, we don't need to do that. So and there was a lot of things going on that I just blamed on. Like, I remember I raced Cross to the North. I just jumped into it since it's local. My body was numb the whole bike race. I was like, I took too many hand ups. Which didn't make sense. It wasn't beer hand ups that caused it. There was a lot of things. I was like, I joke about I need life alert because I was falling at home. I was like, I'm clumsy and I'm a competitive cyclist. And, so it was like July 2024. I successfully climbed Mount Adams this time around. So that's the moral of the story, is the volcano causes neurological disease. But it was July 20th, 2024. And I went mountain biking with one of my friends. He's like really good friend. We have trained probably thousands of miles together on a bike. Like, he knows me on a bicycle. Sure. He's behind me mountain biking, and, he knows I don't ride as much anymore, but he's like, I think he said, he's like, I'm going to contact USA Cycling and have it struck from the history books that you had a pro license. Like, this is, because I was just off the trail, like leaning to the right. I couldn't control the bike. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, my left eye's blurry. I was like, my contacts are old. But it was like, and so I mountain biked a couple, weekends after that. And then it was like going outside in general, like my vision would get blurry and I'd start stumbling around. And at that time I knew, and it was that very like almost like rational. It was like, yeah, this is MS because MS relapses. Because I had read a ton about MS and I was a neuro nurse, so I knew a little bit about it. And so I kind of like I resolved. I was like, okay, so new primary care doctor was like, well, go into the optometrist first. Let's make sure the eye is fine. And she's like, this is multiple sclerosis. I'm like, okay, I might agree with you now. So it such as I did 2 work trips to Atlanta back to back and then a 2-week personal vacation. So it took me, I couldn't get into my doc right away. And the neuro exam was kind of a mess. Like I had a Babinski reflex, which one of my physician friends is like, there's 2 people that have that, a baby and a brain dead person. I was like, cool, I'm a baby.
So what is the Babinski?
Babinski, yeah. So if you run a finger up the sole of a foot, the toes will fan out. And it's something that babies have and then like very brain injured people. And I had it. Which I remember that from being on a neuro floor. I was like, oh, that's not good. My foot is doing that. Okay. So he sent me for an MRI, which it was just, he just did a brain because my primary care doc he didn't know MS protocol of MRIs. And it came back kind of inconclusive. It was very vaguely worded. Everyone said it was a really odd radiology report. So I got referred to radiology. They scheduled me an appointment 8 months out and I had a breakdown because I'm like, I can't live like this for 8 more months because I was starting to get vertigo. I was getting like physically sick, like having to lay on the floor and press my head into the floor. Like if I was anything above 60 degrees, which in the middle of summer, for some reason, the neurology clinic then bumped my appointment to a week and a half later. I don't know who or what or how it happened. And yeah, she's a nurse practitioner who's an MS specialist. And I mean, I was a mess. I fell into the wall trying to walk heel to toe. I could have not passed a field sobriety test because I was like all over the place. And she's like, well, we do have to do a new set of MRIs. She goes, I can't officially diagnose you without the MRIs, but this is MS. And by then it's just, I knew what it was. It was very textbook. And so I had to do brain, eyes, thoracic and cervical spine with and without contrast. So 8 MRIs. I did them all at once for like 4 hours. And it came back. I had a new lesion in my brain that appeared between the September MRI and the one in October. So I had active, they call it active demyelation going on. So for those who don't know, MS is when your immune system attacks the insulation around your nerves and your central nervous system. So your brain and spinal cord. Right. And so with that insulation stripped out, your nerve impulses either get hung up or slowed down. So yeah, the MRI results was like, you have to meet like dissemination in space and time. It's like the criterion. I met it. I had less than 10 lesions in my brain, but I had the brand new one that I think was causing like the vertigo and some of those symptoms I was acutely feeling. And then I have lesions in my cervical spine. I can't quite remember where, and I have one at T9 and 10 in my thoracic spine, which the spinal ones are the scary ones because it's kind of like a spinal cord injury. You don't want something happening. So yeah, so the next day after the MRI results, I just get a message in my chart that's like, you have multiple sclerosis. I ordered 18 lab tests. Please go get them done. Here's your options for therapy. We need to, meet and discuss your therapy, vaccines that you need to get before starting it, like all of this. Here's the appointment. Have fun.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So
yeah. Wow. So I a couple of takeaways for me from all of that is don't ignore those symptoms. I just did another podcast the other day, and we were talking about cancer symptoms, and it really so often comes down to the individual knowing their body, knowing themselves, and then really advocating for themselves and their care. Yes, sometimes that means paying for additional tests, but it sounds like obviously as a nurse that you probably are more qualified than a lot of people to advocate for yourself. So one, good on you for that. And then it also seems like that climbing Mount Adams causes MS. Is that correct? Right? Okay.
Yeah. Apparently it's that
and
volcano.
maybe beer hand-ups can also aggravate MS as well. But seriously though, so you mentioned a couple of times like the body temperature thing. I assume that's a symptom of MS, is just your body's inability to regulate itself correctly. Is that?
Yeah, so like increases in body temperature, it's harder for the nerve impulses to like get through. I guess before MRIs were a thing in the 1980s, one of the tests they used to diagnose MS was to put someone in a bathtub of really hot water. And if they started having symptoms, that was MS. It was the bathtub test. Because, it's weird. I think it's always so weird to think of how new MRI technology really is. It was like the 80s. So,
Right.
Yeah. And people have varying degrees of that. Right now, I'm pretty good. Like sometimes, like my vision will get slightly blurry, but nothing like when I was in that acute phase. I mean, it was anything about 60 degrees. Walking from the parking garage, which is maybe a block into my building at work, I would have to have ice packs ready for me to be able to cool my body down at my desk.
Wow.
I definitely could not ride a bike. I had to buy one of those ice vests that are lined with ice cubes to do non-heated yoga. I mean, she didn't heat her studio, but just to get through a yoga class. Yeah, I have a gazillion different types of ice packs in the freezer.
Didn't you share a photo, I think, of you riding on your trainer at your house with your ice vest on? And
all the fans. And I would still feel so sick. And that was the hardest thing because that October, I mountain biked end of September and I was fine for about 2 minutes and then everything kicked in. I just sat on the side of the trail and started crying because I was like, this is a trail that I think I'm like top 3 on Strava and I've raced it a million times. And here I can't ride the trail because my vision made everything look static in 2D. So I couldn't see rocks and roots. I knew they were there because I know the trail, but it's I couldn't process the visual input. And then I was vertigo and feeling nauseous because my body temp got up. So it's I physically can't mountain bike right now. And I was sitting on the side of the trail this is really. And then I remember that October, I tried riding to the post office and back. And it's a mile to and from my house. And my legs went completely numb. My vision almost got black. I don't know how I made it back to my house without dying on public streets. And so, yeah, I could not ride a bike I tried the trainer a few times and I'd become physically sick for a week after doing it. So it was about October through March was just cycling was a no-go for me. Yeah, which was tough. It's one thing to choose not to ride a bike, but the choice was made for me. And that was, it was a little tough.
I think anybody listening to this and myself, people who love physical activity, whether it's cycling or running or hiking, I just can't imagine facing that maybe that's going to be taken away from me. And if I'm remembering this correctly, Montel Williams, I think, has MS, the talk show host. I think he's still alive. But I remember when he was diagnosed, he was very open about it. And he embraced this very super rigorous gym workouts to help, I guess, negate or stave off some of the effects of MS. And I know that you're still super active. So are you doing anything different in terms of do you have to do PT, or is there any other types of physical activity that you do beyond what you already do to try to help with the symptoms?
Yeah, and luckily I didn't have to. I know my neurologist, that initial appointment, she goes, normally I would send someone to PT, but she goes, you're not going to get any value out of it. What you need to do is still keep going to yoga because the balancing and stuff, because a lot of it is retraining your brain to go around those lesions to make those new nerve impulses or pathways. So she's like, keep going to yoga. She goes, ride a bike if it's safe. She goes, if you have to do bike paths or trainer, she goes, maybe no technical mountain bike trails, or she goes, be safe about it. She goes, have a helmet on, all that. And she goes, and definitely continue hiking. Once again, it's all about being safe, especially at that time when I was a hot mess. Like I couldn't walk a straight line. And she's like, maybe don't go up Long's Peak and be, with a 1,500-foot drop. But she's like, but the key thing is staying active, which a big part of MS is fatigue. And it's fatigue that's indescribable unless you have MS. It's not solved by sleeping or coffee, or it's just, a lot of it is just the taxing of like your brain trying to route nerve impulses and stuff. And the biggest thing to help fatigue is actually being physically active, which sounds weird because being physically active is going to make you fatigued, but it helps fatigue. Which it's true. I can tell the weeks I'm lazy, I feel a lot worse. So yeah, it was pretty much like, keep on doing what you're doing. And I think I was told by her and also other people in the MS community, is like, you have a leg up on people who are not physically active because you are coming from a healthy spot. And you can, if you keep that physical activity, you're going to have a very different course than someone who lives a sedentary life. So yeah, like I was able to get back on the bike in March. I think my first ride back, I rode like 30 miles to get pie in Fort Collins. It was not, I did not know it was going to be 30 miles, but it went fine. Definitely lots of hiking, and I've done like big multi-night backpacking trips. And so I'm pretty much back to kind of where I was. Occasionally I get a little off balance, but yeah, I've kind of been able to resume. I ended up doing indoor like rock climbing for the first time ever, which went really well. Yeah, so it's kind of just continuing what I've always done, but just being safe on days, I feel need to be safe.
Sure. So, and I know that you have plans to segment hike the Colorado Trail. What sort of additional precautions? I mean, because you can't obviously take a cooler full of ice vests with you on the trail. Is the idea to sort of like hike in the morning, rest in the day, during the heat of the day, and then hike some more in the evening when it's cooler? What do you have a plan for all that?
Yeah, which thankfully, like knock on wood, it stays this way. I'm not really heat intolerant, except I've never liked hot weather ever in my life. Like I would live somewhere at 50 degrees always. But so yeah, a lot of it is trying to beat the heat. That is the thing with the Colorado Trail. There's very hot sections, and I'll be in July and August. So yeah, it's just being early. There are different like cooling towels and stuff, which I have a few that I either like acquired or people gave me. I haven't tried them out, but it is an option. I do have an ultralight umbrella that's made to be like a sun umbrella. Yeah. A lot of the thru hikers use them, which it's also good for the afternoon rainstorms. But having that to kind of shade the sun. I'm a big fan of sun hoodies now, just to stop, because sunburns make you feel hotter. And yeah. So a lot of it is just trying to get done early in the morning, and then just being able to relax. That's probably the hardest thing. I'm like, I don't think anyone who does a big hike probably knows how their body's going to feel, but it's like, how fatigued am I going to get or anything? And I was looking at different trails to do a through hike on, and I settled on Colorado Trail because it is local. And it's like, I know probably a dozen people that could come, fetch me off the trail, or, it was kind of a lot easier to bail out of than like the Tahoe Rim Trail where I'm possibly in California and don't know anyone. So.
Yeah. Having been bailed off the Colorado Trail, you can add my name to your list, because I think it's important to have a list of people that can come and can help you out. I'm sure you'll be fine, but yeah, feel free to put my name on the list, whether it's to come bail you out or just to bring you a cooler full of ice to pack all over yourself or something for the day. So yeah, I'm excited to see that in your blog as it goes down. So cool. So in terms of the MS, the progression of the MS, have the doctors given you, or do you know, do they give you any expectations of what to expect in the years to come?
Yeah, I mean, it's really all unknown because brains are a weird place. I mean, there's people who have 100 lesions and that have like absolutely no deficits. And then there's people like me who have like less than 10 and have a few things, just because it all depends where they end up. The biggest thing is, I was told like by neurology is like, this is probably the best time to get diagnosed because it's a very different disease than it was even 10 years ago. A big thing is starting, they're called the disease modifying therapies or DMTs as soon as you can, which I've been told I started mine really fast. I would have preferred a lot quicker, like instantly, but healthcare system, which I think I started mine. It was like less than 2 months after diagnosis. It was quick, but so those are designed to halt progression or like further damage. They can't necessarily repair what's already happened because we don't have a way to remyelinate the nerves, at least not yet. There are clinical trials and stuff. Of course, a lot of the funding has been lost, but hopefully things will, happen. So it's like, it's a very different disease than even a decade ago, let alone, 30, 40, 50 years ago where they had nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I get a twice a year infusion of, it's called Ocrevus or ocrelizumab. Drug names, but and it's medications, antibodies that attack the B cells, which is a big component of the immune system. It's the cells that make antibodies, and so it wipes out the B cells, which kind of stops them from going and making the antibodies eat my brain effectively. So I get that twice a year. It's really, really expensive, as most specialty meds are. And yeah, that's really, and I get yearly MRIs just to see like, is there new damage happening? Which I'm only a year into this, but yeah, my MRI in June was great. Like no new lesions going on. And there's different forms of MS, but I have the most common. It's relapse and remitting. So you're really, really good. You relapse, and that's usually you have a new lesion somewhere, new symptoms, and they'll get better and then get worse. And sometimes that can just turn into where you just have a progressive worsening. So the infusions are meant to try to just halt any future damage. The trade-off is you are killing off like half your immune system. I was just on a training course where they're like, people on B cell depleting, it's like they're near absent immune systems. I was like, great to hear going into flu season. But so there is that trade-off of that also makes you susceptible to like any and every pathogen out there. But I was totally willing to do that to keep my function. So yeah, there's not, they don't really give a prognosis because you don't know when and where a new lesion would be and what it would do. A lot of the brain doesn't do anything. So if you get a lesion there, you don't care. But the big thing why we pushed, like my insurance was hard, was on the spinal lesions, just because if those get worse, if you cut through your spinal cord or something, you might lose ability to walk stuff. So so I think that's the scariest thing is I don't know the future. I'm a lot more rational. Like I didn't quit my job. I didn't cash out retirement accounts. It's like
there's still time to do that though.
Yeah, I know it's still tempting. Although my retirement accounts are definitely not enough to. Yeah. And most people say you don't die from MS. You're probably gonna die with it. And there's plenty of people. They're in their 70s and 80s. I've been fortunate to meet people that they've had MS for 15 years and they still go run marathons and they have children and have fairly normal lives. So, but that's the scariest thing to me. Like when people are, I just have a cold, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yeah, but your cold can overwhelm my immune system, which then causes a new lesion and maybe I can't walk.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think that's the part. I'm like, I don't know. So I kind of that YOLO millennial thing of just live life and do everything while I can, because I'm also getting older, but it's also like, I want to do it when I have full functionality for the most part. And so. Yeah.
There was something you mentioned in there about your immune system, and we're rolling into flu season. And I think that I'm a very big vaccine advocate. I've come and spoken at some events that you've been part of in Wyoming. But I would just say to folks out there, who poo-poo vaccines or I never get sick during the flu season. That's great if you don't get sick during the flu season. We're all jealous of you. But also there is folks like you, Heidi, who maybe on the, externally that you look fine and healthy. And but if everybody, as many people as possible, get their flu vaccines, we're doing a lot to keep folks like yourself and other people who might have compromised immune systems safe. So that's my vaccine plug for this show. I seem to be working them in everywhere. So
I say amen. Yeah. And I think
thanks.
it's not always about you. It's about, and everyone always thinks, the babies and the elderly, which is fair too. But yeah, there's plenty of people walking around, and it's hard because like I'll wear a mask on airplane and people are like, you look fine, because I don't look like a cancer patient or, anything. It's like, yeah, but I also really possibly might not have an immune system. And so it's like, you never know what other people are struggling with. So just be kind.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this. When I started this podcast, you were one of the first people that I thought about. I was like, people with great energy, and you're literally have been. I saw sometimes just call it your Delta shit sandwich, right? And other than your initial freak out to cash in your 401 and quit your job, you're just I feel like, we could just look to you for inspiration in terms of like how to navigate something really tough in one's life. And I'm excited to continue to follow you on your blog, the Adventuring Heidi. And so thank you so much, Heidi. And I do also want to, before we roll out of here, I want to, I've got a couple questions for you, sort of the end segment pop quiz. You're not graded on this. So, the first, and I can't remember if we did this on our first trial. I'll call it our trial run of when we tried to record our last podcast. But did we talk about your theme music for this podcast? Mm-hmm. Okay, remind me what genre of music did you choose? I forgot.
I chose like 3 horribly contrasting ones because I'm a messed up person with a bad music taste. But what did I say? It was like early 1990s country. So we're talking like Garth.
Right.
I love me some Garth Brooks. I am a Wyoming girl. Like punk rock, and then what did I say? Like stomp and holler, because I guess that's a lot of what I listen to now. Okay. So
I did not have a chance to plug that into the AI machine yet, but I will. And it should be pretty interesting. I just finished doing one for another show, and their request was Southern California surf rock reggae, which actually ended up being pretty cool, the finished product. So I'm sure that yours will be just as interesting. Next question. We've been talking a lot about being out on the trail. So what's your favorite go-to trail snack? Like what's always in your hip pocket or your pack for snacking?
Probably dried mango. I definitely always have that. I love dried mango. I eat a lot of it even at home, because it's there. And also Snickers. I've used Snickers as actual like meals before, like breakfast backpacking, because when you're backpacking, you eat whatever you care to eat. But dried mango and Snickers for sure.
Yeah. I'm right there with you with the Snickers. And it's so funny that you bring up mangoes. I just finished reading a really good autobiography called The Mango Tree. It's written by a woman who is half Filipino, half Swedish, it's about her childhood growing up in Florida, and her mom, who was Filipino, her obsession with mango trees. So if you're into autobiographies with mango themes, I recommend it. So on the Colorado Trail this season or this summer, what's that one luxury item that you're going to take with you that some people might look at and say, oh, that's kind of excessive. Why would you lug that around with you?
Oh, that's tough. Because I feel like I've invested in a lot of good ultralight gear that seems luxurious, but oh gosh. So this sounds crazy because we just got talking about how hot Colorado summers are and stuff, but so it's ultralight, but it is very luxury. So I have a custom-made sleeping quilt that is a 10-degree down quilt. And everyone's like, a 10-degree, and it's 10-degree comfort rated. So I could sleep in it like -20. And everyone's like, and yes, I'm running that in the middle of like July in Colorado, and it's going to be like 90 degrees. But I am an incredibly cold sleeper in the minute it gets dark. And I discovered in the summer when I was backpacking, I will be snuggled up in that 10-degree quilt. So yes, I know a 20-degree one would be a lot lighter, I love my 10-degree quilt. Even when the overnight low is like 55, I will be all bundled. And then usually in the middle of the night, I will still like put a down jacket on. And I've been told that could be a function of MS too. It's just like the temperature regulation.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm right there with you because I have been on the Colorado Trail in August and woke up with frost on my tent. So it gets cold up there at night sometimes.
Yeah. So I might actually need it. But yeah, most people are like, you don't, a 10-degree quilt, it's like if you're mountain. I'm like, no, I will. So that's probably a luxury thing. Other than that, I mean, I'm trying to usually I always bring a book backpacking, but I think I've been told like when you're hiking day in and day out, you're too tired. You're not going to sit there and read at night. You're going to go to sleep. So it'll probably just be the quilt. I can't think of, I mean, I'm going to bring like a change of underwear, which is very luxurious in the thru hiker world.
No, I'm right there with you. I like slipping into some clean boxers at the end of the night after taking off because I'm usually bike packing. So like, I don't want to be hanging out in my sweaty chamois all day at the campsite. Sort of going along the same lines, you've already answered this, but just sort of and this could be a cycling piece of gear or any type of gear. What's your favorite piece of gear?
Ooh, let's see. I know when it comes to like off the bike, so backpacking or hiking. So I have a Hyperlight Mountain Gear Southwest 55 pack, which I use it for day hiking and backpacking. So it's like a Dyneema backpack. I love it. It's so comfortable. And yeah, I use it with like nothing in it on a day hike to, I think like the last time I did Mount Adams, I had all the crampons and heavy mountaineering gear and overnight gear in it. So that's probably definitely my favorite piece of gear. When I'm not on a bike, I still ride my 2016 Specialized like Epic. It was like the last mountain bike I bought. It's the bike I raced, and it fits me so perfectly. I get on it even now where I don't have good skills and stuff, and I just feel one with the bike. It also still has a 2x drivetrain, and I will always have a 2x drivetrain, even though I've been informed by my mechanic that the chain rings are no longer available. But we're going to somehow, I might have to cannibalize my other Epic so I can keep my 2x chain. But that's probably my favorite like bike, which is I guess it's a 10-year-old mountain bike at this point. But I don't know. I just feel like it feels like part of me when I'm on it. So.
I need to get on a Specialized Epic because I was interviewing Garth Prosser, who's a 23-time Leadville finisher, the mountain bike Leadville. And we were talking about favorite bikes, and he said the Specialized Epic as well. So I'm obviously missing out on that one. So
I think you are. Yeah, I have a 2013, which that's what I rode at Leadville. That was before like full suspensions had really taken off on being in Leadville, and I was like, nope, I'm riding a full suspension. And then I have my 2016, and I love them. I haven't been on a more probably modern one, but a lot of friends I know have them. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm a Specialized fangirl though. So
Fair enough. They make good stuff. Well, cool. I hope on your blog, the Adventuring Heidi will get to see before you hit the Colorado Trail, like a exploded pack, where you lay out everything that you're gonna have and talk about it. Always find those types of articles or videos super interesting. So looking forward to that and following along with the Adventuring Heidi. Again, folks, the link is down in the show notes. I really encourage you to go out and check out Heidi's blog. It's well written. She's a wonderful photographer, and yeah. So Heidi, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story. And again, just looking forward to following along on your adventures.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Beat up! Yeah! Get up! Kicked in the teeth, no weather! Not gonna lie down and die! Gotta stand up, reboot and move on! One step at a time! Stand up! Reboot! Stand up! Reboot!